Shakumako, everyone. Welcome to this week's Iraq briefing, where we break down some of the most important events shaping Iraq. And today, our focus is Iraq's dangerous slide to theocracy. I'm Eric Gustafson.
And I'm Omar and I.
Wow, I cannot believe what just happened this week in Iraq's parliament.
It is quite a mess. We're still trying to unbox what happened and figure out where this goes next.
Our main topic today is the controversial parliamentary session that passed a package of 3 bills, including major changes to Iraq's personal status law number 188, that's been on the books since 1959. Changes that could open the door to legalizing child marriage and even prostitution. So, time to call this session to order. Iraq's parliament just passed amendments to 3 major laws in a single vote, including the 1959 Personal Status Law, the 2016 General Amnesty Law, and legislation from the mid to late 1970s on land confiscated by the Baath regime, which understandably is drawing immense controversy by both lawmakers and civil society. Can you tell us about what the changes to these 3 laws would do?
Yeah, very briefly, the amendments to the personal status law would empower clerics selected by the state to rewrite guidelines on family matters, marriage, divorce, child custody, inheritance, and send them back to Parliament for approval. The other 2 bills, one of them is expected to expedite the release of thousands of prisoners, including some who were accused of acts of terror. So that's also a controversial issue. Of course, there are innocent people, but it is a sensitive matter. And the third bill deals with the return of large tracts of farmland in the disputed territories that were once taken away, appropriated by the Baath party, and given to other people. So the idea is to return that land to farmers, mostly Kurdish and Turkmen Iraqi farmers. 3 controversial issues have supporters, have opponents, and neither of the major blocks backing those legislations have been able to push those laws through on their own. Therefore, a few months back, they agreed, they made a deal to pass the 3 bills in one package, and that is the issue at the center of the controversy of this week.
Wow. So, as I understand it, critics are accusing the Speaker of Parliament, Mahmoud al-Mashrani, of procedural violations, and some MPs are claiming that more than half the chamber was either not present or refused to vote. I got a lot of questions. What the heck happened in Parliament this week? Why is it that it's hard to get clear details about what happened? What's going on here?
Right. Strong objections have been raised by a lot of lawmakers, especially independent lawmakers and smaller blocs who are not aligned with the 3 major ones. And some of them have also filed lawsuits with the federal Supreme Court to challenge the outcome of this session. They have accused the Speaker of failing to present the bills, the drafts, to the lawmakers before the vote. They have also accused him of actually declaring the vote concluded and successful even before people have raised their hands. And apparently, or reportedly, allegedly, a quorum was lacking during the session. The problem is we don't really know what happened because press coverage of the session was limited or still is lacking. We don't really know exactly what happened. There is fragmentary footage that was captured by cell phones of MPs from the session, and they have shown the aftermath and the chaos. But we don't really have a record of how many people were there, how many people actually cast their votes, and for which bills. So it is quite a difficult situation to untangle, and we don't really know what went down there.
And as I understand it, there's even an issue of knowing the exact text that the members of parliament voted on. Is that true?
Well, correct. Yeah, that's the situation. If you go to the website of the Iraqi parliament right now, you're not going to see the text of the bills that were presented. And the objecting lawmakers say that the bills were not presented to them, and that there were changes that were introduced from prior drafts that they were not aware of. And this is coming from multiple, groups of lawmakers within parliament. So there is something going on there.
Wow, unbelievable. And given how much this impacts so many Iraqis, I can imagine families who were resettled during the Ba'ath regime in and around Kirkuk, and they don't know what's going to happen, what mechanism is going to be put in place for, transferring lands back to the original owners, Kurdish or Turkmen. I can imagine a Yazidi waiting for justice, and, the individual who committed atrocities is currently in jail, who could then be freed. And again, total lack of clarity about how that process would work. And then, not to mention the personal status law. So let's zero in on the personal status law. This is a law, as I said, that's been on the books since 1959, among the most progressive family laws in the Arab world. If the amendment, if this change is enacted, these changes would hand broad power over family matters, such as marriage, inheritance, and child custody, to state selected clerics. Why is this particular change in law sparking so much alarm among so many Iraqis? What are the potential implications? And also, precisely which community does this law speak to? And how does that affect things in terms of the rest of the population?
Right. So the law was initially designed to, or the amendments were designed to apply to all of Iraq's, all of Iraq. And then there were objections from Sunni lawmakers in parliament that prompted a revision of the amendments so that they apply only to the Shia Muslim community. But the main objections about the amendments focus around the issue that the amendments would give legislative power essentially to unelected clerics to rewrite the substance of the law and then return it to parliament for a rubber stamp of approval. And there is no clarity about what, if any, power that parliament will have to revise or adjust or veto whatever material, whatever regulations will be proposed by those clerics. And that is clearly scaring a lot of people because they don't know what kind of interpretation of Islamic jurisprudence is going to come back from those clerics. Is it going to be the more modern enlightened ones, or is it going to be the 8th century version of jurisprudence? So that's creating a lot of anxiety within civil society and within the Iraqi society at large.
Wow, unbelievable. Yeah, and I can imagine how it fragments the social contract. You have a set of rules that apply to only one community and not other communities. And do kids have any say in the matter? And also families that include members of family that are Sunni, members of the family that are Shia, which you will find those diverse families within Iraq as well.
Absolutely. That is a major concern. How does the legal system cope with this change? How do courts deal with this, new legal reality when you have multiple legal codes for different parts of society? How do you adjudicate that? I think that's another source of concern.
Yeah, I'd also say that I see real complications within even the Shia religious establishment because you have these clerics who are selected by the state. They're basically politically appointed religious scholars that are in the endowment office versus the religious establishment, back in Najaf or Karbala. And not to mention the most senior clerics like Grand Ayatollah Ali al-Sistani. He's not calling for this. I mean, it seems like this is a non-issue that these conservative Islamist Shia political parties are pushing this agenda to create a culture war when it's not something that these senior clerics are calling for. So it's quite unbelievable. And I would say that my big concern is if you do have politics mixing with religion, what often mixes also with politics is money. And there are real problems with some of these backwards ideas, like, for example, these temporary pleasure marriages, which is essentially, prostitution. I mean, it opens the doors to legalizing prostitution and even child marriages. So that puts, the Iraq in conflict with its international obligations under human rights law, and not to mention puts the clerical establishment in opposition to the Iraqi public, because this is so outrageous, and there's going to be an outcry about this.
Indeed, indeed. And again, the biggest problem is, or the biggest risk is that we don't know what's going to come back in those guidelines and what kind of outrageous rules and fatwas are going to be shoved down the legislative agenda down the road. So, I think a lot of people are bracing for what's going to come next, and that's why there have been legal challenges to the outcome of this parliamentary session. It's too risky. There is a lot at stake, and it's good to see that there are lawmakers who are trying to make a stand and to challenge this.
All right. So I know, as I understand, civil society, there's a coalition of women's groups, Coalition 188, that are calling for a revocation, and of course challenging whether or not this was a legitimate procedure that's being challenged in the courts. So we'll have to see what happens next. So thanks so much, Omar. Let's quickly talk about the other major developments this week. Syrian Democratic Forces commander Mazloum Abdi met with Masoud Barzani in Erbil to discuss Kurdish unity and potential peace talks with Turkey. In Tarmiya, 4 Iraqi soldiers were killed and 5 injured when an ISIS weapons cache detonated during a security operation. Baghdad's municipality announced that a foreign company has agreed to build a plant in Baghdad that will generate 100 megawatts of electricity by processing 3,000 metric tons of waste daily. Amazing. So we'll have to see if that actually happens. After longstanding water shortages, Iraq's water resources minister cited increased releases of water from Syria, improving the water levels of the Euphrates, which is, of course, vital to much agriculture. That's it for today's Iraq briefing. For more news and analysis, you can visit us at enablingpeace.org. If you value this content, please subscribe to our channel, share us with others, and click that bell for notifications. Until next time, masalama.